In 92127 in the last week, new listings is 26. 92127, 26 new listings. In 92128, 19. In Poway, 17. And in PQ, 16. So that's a total of 78 new listings to the market last week. All right, pending listings in 92127, 15. Okay, 15 listings went pending. Now here's an interesting number, 92128, 30. 30 houses went into escrow in the last week, so 30. Poway 14 and PQ 10. So that's a total of 69. So 69 properties went pending within the last 7 days. Now let's discuss sold. 92127 sold 10. 10 properties. 92128, 18. Poway 5. And PQ 6. So that's a total of sold properties in those 4 market areas of 39 properties. So looking at some of those numbers, what can you guys discern from some of those numbers? What do you guys see? George?
Even though there are new listings, the inventory is not growing, and probably properties are taking longer.
Yeah, and they are. We're going to discuss a little bit of that right now. Patty, we're going to add anything to that, or we just... Sure, that's what you're going to say. Sure, that's exactly what you...
What did they say?
What was that? Oh, George said even though Mark, they're taking a little bit longer to sell. I mean, houses, we don't have enough inventory. We still don't have enough inventory. That's something we're still running the problem is. But surprising just with Poway, with just 5 sales in PQ, and the whole city PQ, just 6 sales. But there's more houses coming on, but we're also seeing a lot more properties that are going pending and sold. Okay? So some helpful information. Now what I want to chat about is the next page in your guys' agenda. We want to go over the North County market updates. And I'm going to give you some numbers to kind of go along with some of these stats. So let's go to, oh, sorry. First of all, I want to chat. One of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago was agents behaving badly. And I don't know if you guys know, but the NAR or realtors have what's called a code of ethics. I don't know if you guys have ever read the preamble to the Code of Ethics. This is just the first 2 paragraphs, but I'd like to kind of read it right now and then discuss. It talks about professionalism, but let's talk about what it means. Number 1, under all the land, upon its wise utilization and widely allocated ownership, depends the survival and growth of a free institution and of our civilizations. Realtors should recognize that the interests of the nation and its citizens require the highest and best use of the land and the wise distribution of land ownership. They require the creation of adequate housing, the building of functioning cities, the development of productive industries and farms, and the preservation of a healthful environment. And I read that without any glasses or contacts from at least 40 feet away. Just telling you that right now, just so you guys know. So, that first paragraph, what are some words that jump out at you from that first paragraph? What's something that jumps out at you about that first paragraph? This is talking about you guys. Yeah, George. Our civilization. Wise utilization. Free institution. Does this sound patriotic to you guys? Yeah. This is one of the reasons why we do the Pledge of Allegiance every single time before we do Caravan. But one of the things you guys need to understand is this is discussing you as an industry, as professionals. This is discussing you. When you received your real estate license, you had a license to sell real estate. But when you decided to join the board of realtors, this is what you said that you were going to do and your beliefs that you had. You might not have known it, but this is what you agreed to. So let's talk about the second paragraph. Such interests impose obligation beyond those of ordinary commerce. They impose grave social responsibilities and a patriotic duty to which realtors should dedicate themselves, and for which they should be diligent in preparing themselves. Realtors, therefore, are zealous to maintain and improve the standard of their calling and share with their fellow realtors a common responsibility for its integrity and honor. What are some other words that might jump out to you from that second paragraph? Integrity? Integrity? Honor? Trust?
Beyond those of ordinary commerce.
Beyond those of ordinary commerce? So these are all words that, as you read them, do you sit there and think, That's me. That's what I believe. That's how I feel. If you do, great. One of the things that I always felt was interesting in this is where it talks about, kind of second line, standard of their calling. When you hear that when someone has that word calling, what does that mean? What do you, when you hear the phrase calling, person has a calling, what do you think that means? A predetermined destiny. Caution. Oh, passion. I'm sorry, caution. I can see good, but not hear so well. One, George?
It's your purpose.
It's your purpose. But you guys just sell houses, right? All you guys do is open doors and point to kitchens and say, here's a sink, this is granite, right? This is your purpose. This is what you guys do on a daily basis. One of the things is live accordingly so that your clients recognize that. And make sure your clients know that. I mean, I wouldn't sit there and say, here's, who I am and what I believe, but maybe in a discussion saying, here's our preamble to our Realtor Code of Ethics. This is why it might be a little bit different hiring a realtor than just a real estate agent. And this is what I believe, and this is what I stand for, and this is what I'm going to do to help you in this process. If we just approach this as I sell real estate, all this is null and void. But one of the things is, look up, just Google Realtor Code of Ethics, and there is about 4 more paragraphs to this preamble. But this, when I read this, I have this printed out on a sheet of paper, and I look at that and I sit there and think, is that who I am today? Is that who I'm striving to be today? Or am I just selling houses? Does that make sense? So I implore you guys, I'll send this off today with Judy's recap of it. Print this out. I'm not saying memorize this, but take this to heart. Be this person. Be better than you were yesterday, but be this person that people can look to and know that you have integrity and honor. Okay? All right, so on that note, any comments, anything else about the preamble? Anybody would like to talk about? Kind of sprung it on you guys, but Karen's shaking her head. It's a good thing to have in a presentation. Was it first page for a long time? So I can order these and print these off for you guys so you can have with you, but it's a good thing to have in your presentation so that you can share that with them. Because I can pretty much tell you, I don't know of any other people or any other agents that are using this in a listing presentation. I don't. But I really think that that's a passion about it that you might want to have. George.
Whether the clients have these 2 paragraphs in front of them or not, they rely on
Yep.
us.
Yep. Exactly. Whether they trust you guys. That's the thing. They trust you that you're going to act the responsibility for its integrity and honor. There's a trust in that. Even if you, like George said, even if you don't have this, even if they don't know about this and you don't have it in front of them, it's still your due diligence. It's still your responsibility to be this person. Okay? One of the things that I tell my kids, because my dad told me, but one of the things is we talk about, you are who you are no matter who you're around. Meaning that even if you're by yourself or whatever, you are who you are. So be this. Don't do this to get more sales. Don't do this to get more awards. Do this because this is who you are. Okay? All right. So thank you for letting me stand on a soapbox for a little bit. Just professionalism in this industry, I think is something that I have a big passion about, and I continue to go back to this. Okay, so let's discuss right now. I want to chat with you guys about our local market. So let's talk about our local market. Number 1, sold properties. So in your guys' notes, I have a page that has a section you can kind of write notes about what we talked about. July 2016 is up or down from July 2015. So here's our first graph. This graph, we're going to talk about sold properties. These are properties that sold in the month of July. One of the things, look at this graph. What can you tell me the difference between July, this blue bar, July 2016, and July 2015? What does it look like?
Down less.
The amount of properties sold is down 22%. So the amount of properties sold is down 22%. July 26 is down 22% from July 2015. So that's just the amount of inventory. The amount of properties that sold is down 22%. Okay? and it's lower than it was back in 2014 also. So it's the lowest July in the last 2 years of sold properties, sold and closed properties. Okay? Why? Why do we think?
If I add up June and July, though, for those 3 years, it looks better. Maybe they just all sold and closed in June.
So we're looking at June, because yeah, if you look at June
It's way higher
in
than the other
2015, it's 240 in comparison to 226 of last year.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's a group.
So maybe more people are closing things in June instead of in July. George,
If you walk into Bonds
walk into bonds.
and all the shelves were half empty, they wouldn't be selling as much.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have here.
And that's the thing, we're going to talk about inventory levels too, but I think that's, you hit it on the head. We've been talking about inventory for how long? Forever, right? It seems like forever. So we've talked about inventory. Let's go to next slide. Oh, current inventory. It's like, wow, that's weird. They go together. Oh, that's awesome. So let's chat about current inventory. So I want you to write this down. Current inventory is from 2006, July 2006, is up 1.4% over last year, over July 2015. Up 1.4%. That's not that big. That's margin of error. Up 1.4%. That's not a bluff. Almost dead even. But let's look at these numbers. Let's look at July 2016 is 521 active properties. And oh, just so you guys know, the market that we're looking at here is area codes 92064, 92127, 92128, and 92129. And I did take out, it's just single-family homes. I don't have townhomes or condos in these numbers. It's just flat single-family residents in these 4 zip codes. So looking at this number right here, it's down considerably from July 2014, which was at 554 current inventory. Okay? And so we see, when we talk about peaks and valleys, we see those inventory levels, they peak up and they go down. So what's going to typically happen is we're going to start to see this number start to decline month by month. When I give you guys August numbers next month, when the month of August is all closed out, we're probably going to see less inventory in August than we did in July. Okay? So what does that mean? What do we do about it? How do you do about it? Just don't work in August or September? Karen? Yes. The number should include townhomes. So Karen's saying is that townhomes, people are showing those and buying those because they can afford them, correct? You can't find, so 550,000 can't find, but in the condos, townhouses. So should I put townhouses and condos in here? Should I put it back in here? Okay. So next month, I'll throw those numbers back in there, townhouses and condos. And that might skew, maybe I'll do a graph with and without, just to kind of skew the numbers a little bit on that. So inventory levels, I'll keep it, I'll put in townhouse and condos, but for price per square foot and value, I will take those numbers out just so we have a very good number on that, okay? All right, what else about current inventory? How do you make more inventory? Get more listings. So, what was that? They have to have a place to go to. These sellers have to find a place to go to. And that's one of the things I've heard from a lot of you is, you have people that say, I'd like to sell, but I don't have a place to go. And one of the things, I mentioned this before, but I say some of that fault lies on us. When we sit there and say, it's a great market, there's no houses out there, buyers are scrambling, buyers making multiple offers, sellers get what they want. That seller who's going to become a buyer, what do they hear?
Go to Henderson, Nevada.
Go to Henderson, Nevada. Ward's got a place to stay.
Got a place.
Well, that's one of the things. What they hear is like, well, if I'm going to be a buyer, then I'm going to be that person that's going to be scrambling, trying to get into something. Maybe I'll just wait. Maybe I'll just wait until the market does what? Do we think that the interest rates, Jim, do you think interest rates are any lower than they are?
I don't think so. Barring further significant negative news, they will most likely.
Yeah. We're probably at the base, at the bottom of where we're going to do with interest rates. Okay? So let's go to the next one. Next slide, Kat. Sorry. Okay, price per square foot. From this graph, the blue line, what can you tell me about price per square foot? It is up 0.9%. The price per square, July of 2016 is up 0.9% from July 2015 for price per square foot. Okay, so we continue to see this number climb. Now this did take a dip. You look at this going, well, in May it was kind of at the peak for this year, and it's gone down, but the fact is that it's continually going up year over year. So the average price per square foot, and one of the things is, when you hear 0.9%, that's nothing groundbreaking. But what does that indicate? What does it mean when it's not shooting up out of the, a skyrocketing? What does that mean for your sellers? But what does it mean? Let's talk about, first of all, sellers. What does it mean for your sellers if prices aren't skyrocketing? What does it mean? Time to sell?
Well, they'll be able to find a house, probably.
They'll be able to find a house.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be.
Because one of the things is, those of you that sold properties in 2012, leading in 2013, when someone sold their house and all of a sudden the house they were looking at was up 6, 7, 10% over a couple months. Back in 2004, I remember sitting there, someone sold, they bought a house, a year later they sold for 30% more. Just crazy time. So this for sellers, yeah, it's not blowing it out of the sky, but if they've owned their house for the last decade, they've got pretty significant equity in their property. Okay, let's jump to the next one, Kat. Okay, so average sold price. So right here, I'm going to kind of explain. There's two different lines. So you guys can see this top line, which is green, is the average sold price. This bottom line, which is blue, is the median sales price. So what I'm going to do is explain the difference between average and median. Okay, when they talk about median, I'm just throw this out there because maybe you don't know. Median is they take all the inventory or all the units of clothes, they cut it in half, and where they cut it in half at, if there's 500 units of clothes, they cut it at 250, and whatever that price is at 250, that's the median. But what the average is they take all the volume of those 500 units, add them up, and then divide them by the number of units. So if it was, let's say easy numbers, 500 million, and they divide that by 500 units, then that's $1 million a unit. Correct? I'm not allowed to help my kids with math. That was a Common Core question right there. So that's the difference between median and average. So the reason I explain that difference is because there's significant difference in the numbers I'm going to tell you right now. So median sales price, this bottom line, the bottom blue line, median sales price, I don't know if I did check the notes out. No. You might want to write the difference between median and average on there, but median sales price is up 4.4% over last year. So July 2016, median sales price is up 4.4% over July 2015. Okay, so it's up 4.4%. Now let's talk about average. The average sales price is up 0.3%. 0.3% over last year. So have you guys heard sometimes in the news when they sit there and say, oh, the market's up, or the market's down, the market's sideways, or the market's only gone up in this much? This is a story that they might want to tell, but you got to look at these numbers and say, okay, let's clear up some of that misconception. If we're looking at median and average, here's what we're looking at. Because if you share with somebody, oh yeah, your house has gone up 0.3% in a year, well, what response do you think you're going to get? You're full of crap. I mean, you're not. Sorry, Mom. You're not. That's not true. That's incorrect. So you need to look at these numbers and realize what's the truth out there. Because other individuals will take these numbers and kind of spin them how they want to. Okay? So what I wanted to give you guys is facts and discussion. So what do you feel about that? Let's talk about the median, 4.4%. Does that seem correct? Does that seem like a correct number when you're out there? Karen's got another question.
Is that from January 1 till now, or is that year to date?
It's July to July, so when they track it.
I read recent stats and it said 5.6, and that's what I've been.
What numbers were you pulling it from? Because it depends on I pulled these 4 zip codes, so it also depends on where we're looking at. On the median of San Diego. Okay, so Karen's saying median San Diego was 5.6, and that's pulling in the whole county of San Diego. So these numbers, if you're down in Chula Vista, they might be different. But here in our local market, that's what we're seeing is 4.4%. Yeah, Mike.
Now, when you're speaking of our area only, and you say 92127,
Uh-huh.
is that Forest Ranch and
Yep.
Santa Luz? and all
Mike's
that?
asking if 92127, yeah, everything in the zip code of 92127, Del Sur, Santa Luz, Crosby, all that, the lakes, it's all being pulled in.
No National City.
No, National City, Mike, sorry, it's not getting pulled in.
By the way, Chula Vista,
Uh-huh.
it's gone up more than any other.
So Chula Vista is gone, and that's what I'm saying. Some of these areas where the purchase price is lower are seeing a higher increase, and why is that? That's all I heard. What?
Prices were lower.
Prices are lower now. More people can afford, and that's driving the price. One of the things is an indicator that we all see is the luxury market. What's happening in the luxury market right now? It's slow. It's stalled out. If you go on, what I'd like for you guys to do is going on to Paragon and putting in over 1 million, kind of in our area, 1 million plus homes. And what you're going to see is a lot of red down arrows, meaning that the prices have gone, not the sales price, but what the listed prices has been reduced and has gone down because the luxury market stalled out. One of the reasons why is because, kind of what Karen mentioned before with the townhouses and condos, the bottom, the middle market hasn't moved up because people can't do it because of affordability. When affordability in San Diego County is under 20%, that means out of 100 people, 20 people can afford to live here. 20 people can afford to buy here. Okay? So that's important to your clients. It's important for them to know this information. Okay, so average. When I'm using that average number of 0.3%, what do you think about that number? That price values have only gone up 0.3%. Okay, what was that again, Kathy? The low end selling, but not the high end. And that's kind of correct on that because if you have, when you do the average, when you have a lot of $500,000 properties selling and not a lot of $1 million properties selling, what that does is that skews the number for the percentage of sales. Do you guys, does that make sense? If not, just agree with me and talk to me later. That's what happens. When you don't see a lot, when they do the average, when you don't see a lot of high-end properties selling, you see that average drop down because you see a lot of lower-end ones selling, but not a lot of high-end ones. And that's a great indicator of our luxury market, of what's happening there. Now, I'm not saying don't take luxury listings. What I'm doing is saying take luxury listings and price them correctly. Those gold cherubs they have in the bathroom, yeah, they're great and wonderful, but they're not worth $50,000 each. Okay? All right, next one, Kat. Okay. Our average days on market, one of the things we see on this, not a huge change. Average days on market is 32. In 2015, it was 29. So we're not seeing a huge change. But if you look on our graph right here, the lowest point of average days on market was July of last year, 29. 29 days on the market. Okay, so looking at this graph and looking historically from July 2014, July 2015, what do you think is going to happen to the average days on market from here on out, the rest of the year? It's going to go up. We're going to start seeing that number. At 32 is probably going to creep up to 35, 37, and we're going to see that number start to creep up. Okay? Your sellers need to understand that. If somebody says, I want to list my property right now, and I have to be in Henderson, Nevada to buy Ward's property by end of September, they got to price it right and price it to sell because we're going to see it sit on the market a little bit longer. Okay? So that's one of the things that your buyers need to understand also. They might have been getting beat out and beat out and beat out in April, May, June. But if they want to get in and find a property right now for a buyer is the best time for them to get out because they're going to see more inventory sitting longer on the market, more inventory for them to be able to go in and negotiate terms on their behalf. Anything about this? Does the 32, does that sound about right? At 32? Okay. And so these graphs and these numbers, we're going to send them off to you guys so you can have this information. But the most important thing on this is to understand it yourself so you can share that information with your clients. And I've heard some misinformation being spread out there about at some other meetings and some other things I've read online that there's a bubble, that things are going to come down, that the geopolitical and also the economic worldwide is. I don't know. People still have to buy, and we're seeing one of the things is. Let me discuss this real quick with you. What is one of the differences I see in this market that people keep comparing our market now to the market back in 2007, 2008, 2006. One of the differences is there's a lot more individuals that have skin in the game when they bought their property. See a lot of loans with people coming in with 10%, 20% down. That person has a vested interest in, even if the market takes a dip, what does it mean? It's staying there. Now, when these, you guys remember 80-20s, neg AM loans, pick-a-pays, called the Wild Wild West? People had no skin in the game. They had no money of their own in the property. So if the property went down in value, did it matter to them? Nope. They're walking away from it. I knew a lot of individuals that piggybacks, 80 front and 20, or 81st and 22nd. And when the market got tough, they're like, yeah, I don't know, I'd rather just go rent. Just walk away from the house. Or stop paying for a year and a half. So that's the difference that we see in this market right now. We have a lot more people with skin in the game, a lot more investors who bought these properties and are going to hold them. We're not going to see a huge spike in foreclosures and short sales, but what we are going to see is people being more cautious. We're going to see buyers being a lot more cautious about their purchase because they're nervous about where the market's going. That's where it's up to us to share with them this information and paint this picture for them so they understand what's happening in the market and let them make that decision. Is there anything else that you guys would like to see on these graphs? Any other numbers, any other indicators that you guys might want to see? If you do, just let me know, but I feel like these are, I don't want to say easy discussion points, but discussion points that you can have with clients and they'd be able to understand. Any other questions on this? Scare you guys too much? I'm sorry. I apologize. But great. So is that the last? I think it's the last one. So last slide. So let's go into Caravan.